Althea Brooks does not raise her voice. She only raises her finger. Take off your collar, Chairman Jang. The crystal light of the Lotus Signal lobby fractures across Jang Tae-ho's face as if the building itself has paused to listen. His security team stops a step behind him, hands hovering near earpieces they do not touch. The elevator doors remain open, waiting for a man who has never been kept waiting. Her finger is steady, inches from his throat. He feels the fabric press against his skin where the mark sits hidden. The air smells faintly of polished stone and expensive perfume. A businessman nearby lowers his phone without realizing he has done it. Someone drops a spoon in the cafe and does not bend to pick it up. You shouldn't be here, Tae-ho says, but the words land softer than he intends. My granddaughter has the same one, Althea replies. She does not blink. Her eyes hold his the way auditors hold numbers that do not reconcile. A bead of heat gathers under his collar. He has negotiated hostile acquisitions, dismantled companies twice his size, stood across from prosecutors who wanted his signature on a confession. None of them ever said that sentence. He looks at his security chief. One small movement of his hand sends them back a step. Not away, never away, but far enough that the distance becomes a choice instead of a command. You have 5 minutes, he says. They walk past the concierge desk into a private reception room overlooking the Han River. The door seals with a soft pneumatic sigh that erases the lobby noise. The city beyond the glass moves in miniature, traffic lights changing, bridges glowing, a ferry cutting a slow path through black water. Althea does not sit until he does. When she folds her hands, he notices the tremor in her knuckles, not from fear but from age. It unsettles him more than any weapon would. Show me, she says. He does not move. She reaches into her bag and places an envelope on the table. It is thin, unmarked, the paper slightly yellowed at the edges. He does not open it. He does not need to. The weight of it is wrong for money and wrong for photographs. You know what that is, she says quietly. His jaw tightens. He presses a finger to the table once, a habit from boardrooms where decisions cost billions. No one speaks. The climate control hum becomes loud enough to measure time. Who told you about me? He asks. No one, she says. I looked. The word lands heavier than any accusation. He imagines records, archives, old hospital wings, documents that should not exist. He imagines the machinery required to reach him without permission. It feels like a breach, but not of security, of something older. Your granddaughter, he says carefully, is mistaken. She works near Sinchin, Althea answers, as if he has asked a different question. Walks home past a bakery that closes at 9. Buys whatever is left because it's cheaper. She keeps her sleeves long even in summer. The room contracts. He loosens his tie by a fraction, then stills, aware of the movement. Her gaze does not drop from his throat. Take off the collar, she repeats. It is not a command. It is an invitation to confirm or deny a reality he has never allowed to exist. He stands instead, turning toward the glass. The river reflects the tower lights in broken lines. He adjusts his cuff, buys a second of time, then presses a button on his phone. Direct to Kim, he says when the call connects, voice level. I need a laboratory team. Private. Tonight. No external reporting. He ends the call before questions arrive. Althea watches him as if the decision itself is the answer she came for. You're already moving, she says. He does not respond. He presses another number. And I need background on a woman, he continues when the line picks up. Name near park. Sinchin district. Full file. He pauses, listening, then adds, quietly. When he ends the call, the room feels smaller. The clocks in his head begin aligning, meetings, dinners, market openings, each one now connected to the envelope on the table. Why now? He asks. Because she is here, Althea says. In your city. In your shadow. The word shadow catches. He finally reaches for the envelope. The paper inside slides out with a dry sound. A pediatric chart. A nurse's hand-drawn sketch of a cross-shaped mark on the side of a neck. The lines are imperfect, the proportions wrong to anyone else. Exact to him. His throat tightens against the fabric. For a moment he forgets the room, the river, the empire waiting upstairs. There is only the pressure of the collar against skin that suddenly feels visible. You should leave, he says, but the authority has drained from the sentence. Althea stands, not in retreat but in completion. You have 48 hours, she says. After that, it won't matter what you believe. She walks to the door without looking back. The seal releases with the same soft sigh. Lobby noise floods in. Cutlery, footsteps, distant laughter. Ordinary life continuing around a fraction no one else can see. Tae-ho remains seated. He lifts his hand to his collar, fingers stopping just short of the button. Through the glass, a fairy horn sounds low across the hand. His phone vibrates on the table. A message from Director Kim, samples required immediately. Another vibration follows. A calendar alert for the Hanam-dong Council dinner. The envelope lies open between them, the sketch exposed. He does not touch the collar. The elevator chime echoes faintly through the door as the first of his scheduled meetings arrives, unaware that something older than the company and more dangerous than any merger has already been set in motion. His fingers remain at the collar long enough for the skin beneath to grow damp. The sketch on the table pulls his eyes back every time he tries to look away, the inked cross tilted slightly to the left, exactly where the seam of his shirt always presses. The phone vibrates again. Director Kim this time. Not a message, an incoming call. Tae-ho answers without moving his gaze from the paper. We can receive samples within the hour, Kim says. Off-site. No digital record. Not off-site, Tae-ho replies. Use the executive clinic on the 17th floor. After midnight. Manual chain. A pause on the line. Brief but noticeable. Procedures are being rewritten. Understood. He ends the call and sits back, the leather chair exhaling beneath him. The room still carries Althea Brooks's warmth, the faint scent of hand lotion and travel dust. She has left, but the space has not released her. Another number. His chief of staff. I need a personnel file, he says. Near Park. Clinical documentation unit near Sinchon. Education, residency, visa status, daily transit pattern. Purpose, the chief asks. Risk assessment. He does not clarify whose risk. The file request travels through departments that normally handle acquisitions and compliance. Systems designed to move capital begin moving toward a single person. He can almost feel the machinery turning, databases opening, access logs generating, assistants forwarding emails they do not understand. He stands and walks to the glass. The Han River has darkened to a sheet of metal. A fairy horn rolls through the night, low and patient. He loosens the top button of his shirt. The mark presses against the fabric, visible only as a faint shadow. He does not look down. Instead he watches his reflection laid over the city, the collar open just enough to suggest something unfinished. His phone lights again. A calendar alert slides across the screen. Jang Family Council, Hanam-dong, 36 hours. The numbers begin counting down in red. He dismisses the alert, but it reappears as a smaller icon in the corner, persistent. Another notification stacks beneath it. Merger review, boardroom, midnight. He imagines the boardroom table, the projections, the signatures waiting for him. A deal large enough to shift regional markets. A meeting that has been scheduled for months, calibrated to the minute. The envelope remains open behind him. A third vibration arrives, softer, from Director Kim. Sample window confirmed. 48 hours. 3 clocks now, none aligned, all visible. He returns to the table and folds the pediatric chart once, precisely along an existing crease, then again. The paper resists, thicker where age has stiffened it. He places it back into the envelope but does not seal it. The intercom chimes. His assistant's voice filters through, careful and neutral. Chairman Jang, the Myeongseong delegation has arrived. He looks at the door, then at the envelope. Delay them, he says. For how long? Indefinitely. A silence follows on the line, long enough for her to understand the scale of what she is being asked to do. Delegations are not delayed indefinitely. Deals are not postponed without explanation. Yes, Chairman. The line clicks off. He has moved a corporate schedule for a document drawn by a nice decades ago. His phone lights again, this time with a preliminary header from the personnel system. A name appears at the top of the screen. Park, Nia, Sinchon District. A thumbnail image loads slowly, pixel by pixel, resolving into a passport photo, neutral background, hair pulled back, expression caught between compliance and impatience. A long-sleeved blouse despite the summer heat. He does not enlarge the image. Instead he locks the screen and places the phone face down beside the envelope. The room settles into a hum. A circulates. Distant elevator chimes echo faintly through the corridor. The city continues its night rhythm, unaware that a governance structure has begun to tilt. He presses his palm flat against the table and feels the cool marble draw heat from his skin. 48 hours for the lab. 36 for Hanam-dong. 24 for the board. He realizes none of them measure the same risk. The intercom remains silent. The delegation is still waiting somewhere down the hall, polite, confused, their agenda dissolving minute by minute. Tae-ho finally looks down at the envelope again. The pediatric sketch is visible through the thin paper when held against the light. He lifts it, and for a moment the cross-shaped mark aligns with the shadow beneath his collar, paper and skin overlapping in the reflection of the glass. The phone vibrates once more. A new message from Director Kim. Sample requires second subject. He does not move. The clocks continue counting. The message from Director Kim still glows on the screen when the secure line begins to pulse beneath it. Sample requires second subject. Another call forces its way through the queue, tagged with the internal code reserved for legal counsel. Tae-ho answers without clearing the previous notification, the words from Kim remaining visible at the edge of his vision. Chairman, the attorney says, voice clipped, already mid-thought. We have a governance exposure. Tae-ho does not sit. He keeps the phone in one hand, the envelope in the other, feeling the paper flex against his fingers. Clarify. A disclosure risk tied to lineage classification. If an unregistered heir exists and becomes public during a pending merger, minority shareholders can initiate litigation for material non-disclosure. It becomes a breach. The word breach echoes against the glass. How fast? Tae-ho asks. Immediate, if anyone files. Preemptive denial is standard protocol. The attorney waits for instruction. Tae-ho says nothing. Outside the window, a helicopter crosses the river, its red light blinking in slow intervals. The sound arrives a second later, muffled by altitude. Prepare nothing, Tae-ho says at last. A hesitation on the line. Chairman, if there is even a possibility. There is not, he replies, and ends the call. The envelope remains unsealed. His phone vibrates again, this time with a personal contact. Jang Minitsuk. Busan. Tae-ho lets it ring once, twice, then answers. You delayed the Myeongseong delegation, Minitsuk says without greeting. The background noise of waves against a hull bleeds through the line. Our father noticed. Tae-ho walks to the bar counter, pours water into a glass he does not drink. He notices everything. Tae-ho replies. You also cancelled tomorrow's board rehearsal, Minitsuk continues. That is less subtle. The word subtle hangs between them like a warning. Tae-ho watches his reflection in the darkened window, color still loosened, the shadow of the mark visible when he turns his head. What are you asking? He says. I'm asking whether you've created a liability, Minitsuk answers. Because if you have, the council will treat it as one. Council. Not family. A faint creak of wood comes through the phone as Minitsuk shifts his weight. Father scheduled Hanam-dong earlier than usual. Full attendance. No proxies. The countdown icon on Tae-ho's screen ticks down another minute without sound. I'll be there, Tae-ho says. You should come prepared, Minutsu adds. He asked for the historical registry. The line goes dead before Tae-ho can respond. Historical registry means bloodline documentation. Birth records, marriages, absences explained or erased. He sets the phone down beside the envelope and finally drinks the water, the glass cold enough to numb his teeth. The office door opens a fraction. His assistant steps in, careful not to cross the threshold fully. Chairman, the Myeongseong delegation is requesting a new time, she says. Her eyes flick briefly to the envelope, then away. Decline, he answers. She does not move. They are considering withdrawal. Decline, he repeats. A deal worth trillions of won dissolves in the space between two syllables. She bows her head once and closes the door. The silence that follows is heavier than any negotiation room. He has traded a merger for a chart drawn by a nurse. His phone lights again with the personnel file preview. Nia Park's transit card usage. Time-stamped exits at Sinchon Station. A pattern. Predictable. Exposed. He locks the screen without reading further. The air conditioner cycles off, leaving the room briefly without sound. In that stillness, the ticking of the countdown icon becomes audible, a faint digital pulse. 4 to 7 hours and change for the lab. 35 for Hanam-dong. 23 for the board. Each number reduces something he cannot replace. He walks back to the glass and presses his thumb against the inside of his collar, feeling the outline of the mark through fabric. The pressure leaves a faint indentation when he pulls away. Council. Registry. Denial protocol. Systems built to preserve continuity now taining toward him. The intercom remains dark. No new meetings. No interruptions. The Empire has gone quiet around a question it does not yet know how to ask. His phone vibrates one last time, a calendar update overriding all others. Jang Family Council. Hanam-dong. Mandatory. The time shifts forward. Alia. The tribunal will not wait. The tribunal will not wait. The words remain on the screen long after the notification fades, reflected faintly in the glass of Tae-ho's office like a second skyline hovering over the Han. His collar is still open. He has not fixed it. He stands alone in Seo Chodong, the lights of the bridges threading the river below, and the room feels larger than before, as if distance itself has become a form of pressure. His hand moves toward the glass without intention. The reflection meets him halfway, dark suit, loosened tie, the pale edge of skin where fabric should conceal. When he shifts his head, the mark appears fully for the first time in years, a cross-shaped shadow resting against his throat. He freezes. The mark does not look smaller here. It looks closer, personal, detached from the armor of tailored cloth and boardroom language. A drop of condensation slides down the window, splitting his reflection at the jawline. For a moment the mark floats on its own, disconnected from the face he has practiced. His breath touches the glass and fogs it. The outline blurs. Rain on neon pavement. The memory arrives without sequence, just the sensation of wet light and the smell of something electrical burning in the distance. He blinks and the office returns, but the echo of rain remains in his ears. He straightens, but the movement feels delayed, as if the body is following an instruction issued seconds earlier. The mark is still visible. He turns away from the glass and walks to the desk, pressing his palms flat against the marble the way he does when negotiating numbers that refuse to align. The cold steadies him for a moment, then another fragment intrudes. A hospital corridor. Fluorescent light that hums. The squeak of rubber soles against polished floor. A vending machine glowing in a corner, dispensing cans of cold coffee that sweat in the heat. A woman laughing at something he cannot hear. The sound cuts off before he can place the face. He grips the edge of the desk harder than necessary. The envelope lies open beside his hand, the pediatric sketch faintly visible through the paper. The ink lines match the shadow he has just seen on his own skin. His phone vibrates. He does not answer. The vibration stops, then starts again, persistent, mechanical. The office smells faintly of ozone from the air conditioner restarting. It pulls him back into the present. He reaches for his collar and buttons it fully, one precise motion, sealing the mark beneath fabric. The pressure of the cloth feels different now, heavier, as if the shirt has weight. The vibration stops. A message replaces it. Direct to Kim. Sample received. No greeting. No context. Just confirmation. He reads it twice, then a third time, the words refusing to remain neutral. Received means processed. Logged. Begun. The line between speculation and procedure has closed. He lowers himself into the chair, the leather creaking softly, and for the first time since the lobby his shoulders drop a fraction, not in relief but in surrender to a mechanism already in motion. Outside, traffic thickens along the expressway, headlights forming an unbroken chain. Inside, the room is silent enough to hear his own breathing. Another message appears beneath Kim's. Chain confirmed. Analysis initiated. There will be no recall. No quiet cancellation. The system he activated has moved beyond his direct control. He looks once more toward the glass, but the reflection now shows only a perfectly closed color, the surface of the executive he has constructed. The memory of rain lingers anyway. His phone remains in his hand as the countdown icons continue to shrink, their red numerals advancing without sound. He does not move to stop them. The confirmation message remains open in Tae-ho's hand when the intercom lights again. Chairman, his assistant says carefully, Mrs. Althea Brooks is here. She refused to leave. He closes his eyes once, slow, then opens them. Send her in. The door seals behind her the same way it did before. She has removed her coat. Her posture is straighter now, as if the act of waiting has stiffened something inside her. You started the test, she says, not asking. Yes. A small nod. Not gratitude. Recognition. She does not sit this time. She places both palms on the edge of his desk, leaning forward slightly, and for the first time her composure thins. They told her there was a fire, Althea says. Electrical fault. Smoke damage. Fatal. The word hangs between them like ash. Tae-ho does not interrupt. His hands remain flat on the marble. They made her sign papers in a language she barely read. Althea continues. Said it was compensation. Said it was for her protection. They told her if she ever contacted you again, if she stepped back into Korea, they would make sure the accident was real next time. The air conditioner hums softly. Tae-ho hears it like distant static. She was pregnant, Althea says. 3 months. His throat tightens against the closed collar. They put her on a plane from Incheon before dawn. No goodbye. No explanation. Just money in an envelope and a warning. Tae-ho's gaze drifts to the glass wall, but the reflection shows only the executive version of himself. Controlled, symmetrical, untouchable. She waited, Althea says. For a call. For a message. Something. Silence. She thought maybe you were being watched. Maybe you were afraid. She gave you the benefit of doubt longer than she should have. The word should lands harder than accusation. She worked 2 jobs in Atlanta, Althea continues. Then 3. Hospital cleaning at night. Cashier during the day. She kept the baby. She named her Nia. The name settles in the room like a weight added to a scale already tipping. She never spent the money they gave her, Althea says. Not until the hospital bills came. Tae-ho presses his fingers into the marble until his knuckles pale. She told me you loved her, Althea says. That you promised to leave the estate in Hanam-dong. That you said the name didn't matter. The faintest flicker crosses his face. They showed her a death notice, Althea says softly. A document stating you had moved on. That you had chosen your father's expectations over her. He looks up sharply. That was not. They showed her paper, Althea interrupts. Stamped. Official. The word official echoes like a gavel. He imagines documents moving through his own copper channels. Forms stamped, archived, buried. Systems designed to produce truth by repetition. She died believing you had made a choice, Althea says. not that you were lied to. The office grows quiet enough to hear the faint ticking of the countdown icon on his phone. Tae-ho's breath is shallow now. The rain memory returns, sharper this time, the smell of wet asphalt, the echo of laughter under an awning, fingers intertwined in a corridor that smelled of disinfectant and cheap coffee. He had believed the report. He had accepted it because accepting meant survival. Althea studies him for a long moment. You didn't ask questions, she says. You didn't go to the hospital. You didn't look. Her voice does not rise. It does not need to. Each word reframes his silence not as ignorance, but as absence. He opens his mouth, then closes it. There is nothing procedural to say. The clocks continue counting. She protected you, Althea says finally, even from across an ocean. A vibration interrupts the stillness. Tae-ho glances at the screen. Personnel file update. Transit log confirmed. Mapojiu residence. Single occupancy. Pattern stable. He locks the phone without responding. Althea straightens. She walks home alone, she says. Every night. The sentence lands heavier than any threat. Outside the building in Seo Chodong, traffic moves without pause. Somewhere across the river, in Mapo, a young woman finishes a shift, unaware that cameras have begun mapping her routine. Tae-ho feels the weight of the collar against his throat again, tighter now. He nods once, barely visible. Thank you, he says, though it sounds insufficient even to him. Althea studies him as if measuring whether the word carries meaning. Then she leaves him alone with the envelope, the ticking clocks, and a city that now contains a daughter who has grown up without him. His phone lights again. Live visual requested. Unmarked vehicle dispatched. Mapo perimeter. He does not cancel it. He does not cancel it. The message about the unmarked vehicle remains on Tae-ho's screen as he stands in the dark office, watching the reflection of traffic move like a pulse beneath the bridges. The directive he gave has already translated into motion. Someone in Mapo starting an engine, headlights cutting through a narrow street he has never walked. He presses the phone to the desk and calls direct to Kim again. Adjust the protocol, he says. For the sample. Kim asks. For the subject. Tae-ho replies. No proximity alerts. No direct contact. Visual perimeter only. A pause. Systems recalibrating. Protective or observational? Kim asks. The distinction matters. Protective, Tae-ho says. He ends the call before the word can settle into implication. Across the river, Nia Park steps out of the clinical documentation office in Sinchon, the glass door closing behind her with a soft pneumatic click. The fluorescent light from inside spills onto the sidewalk, then disappears as the automatic timer cuts it off. She pulls her sleeves down out of habit, even though the night air is warm. The smell of frying oil drifts from a street vendor packing up. Students pass in groups, laughing too loudly for the hour. Her transit card taps against the reader at the bus stop. The machine beeps once, the same sound it makes every night. She notices the sedan because it does not move when the light changes. Black, engine running, parked across from the bakery that discounts bread after 9. She looks at it only long enough to register shape and color, then looks away, the way you do when you decide something is none of your business. The bus arrives late. She sits near the rear, one hand wrapped around the pole, the other holding a paper bag that smells faintly of sugar. 2 stops later she glances out the window and sees the same sedan merge into traffic behind them. She tells herself it is coincidence. Seoul is full of black cars. Her phone vibrates with a calendar reminder for tomorrow's shift. She dismisses it and watches the reflection of her own face in the glass, superimposed over passing storefronts. The sleeve of her blouse rides up slightly, revealing the faint edge of the mark on her neck before she pulls it down again. The bus brakes near Mapojiu, the doors sighing open. She steps off, the pavement still warm from the day. The street is narrower here, lined with low buildings and convenience stores that hum with refrigeration. The sedan turns the corner at the far end of the block and idles without headlights. Nia slows, then forces herself to keep walking. Her key is already in her hand when she reaches the door of her building. The metal gate rattles as she slides it open. The stairwell smells of detergent and damp concrete. She does not look back. Upstairs, the single-room apartment is quiet except for the faint buzz of the refrigerator. She sets the paper bag on the small table and stands still for a moment, listening. Nothing. She exhales and pulls her sleeves up to wash her hands. The mark shows fully in the mirror above the sink, pale against her skin. She touches it once, as if checking whether it has changed shape. Down on the street, the sedan's engine cuts. Back in Seoul, Tae-ho watches a live map populate on his tablet. No names, only coordinates and movement vectors. A blue dot marks Nia's building. A faint circle expands and contracts around it, indicating perimeter range. He taps the screen once, enlarging the view, then stops himself and locks it again. The room is silent except for the faint tick of the countdown icons. 32 hours to Hanamdong. 21 to the board. 4 to 5 to the lab. He has redirected security assets normally assigned to executive transport. Someone will notice the absence. Someone will ask. His assistant's earlier email about the Myeong-seong withdrawal sits unread. He moves to the window again, collar still closed, and presses his thumb against the fabric where the mark lies hidden. The pressure leaves a faint indentation that does not immediately fade. On the desk, the envelope shifts slightly in the air current from the vent, its corner lifting and settling like a breath. His phone vibrates. Unknown number. He watches it ring once, twice, the sound low in the quiet office. He answers. Yes. A pause on the line, then a voice he recognizes only from the personnel file's audio tag. This is Nia Park, she says. Someone has been following me. The words land without accusation, only observation. He does not speak. I got your message, she continues. If you want to talk, we do it in public. Silence stretches long enough for the city noise to seep through the glass. You choose the place, he says. Hongdae, she replies. Daytime. A cafe with people. The line goes dead. On the live map, the blue dot remains steady inside the perimeter circle. The line is already dead when Tae-ho lowers the phone. Hongdae. Daytime. A cafe with people. The words sit in the air of the CO Chodong office like a contract he did not draft but has already signed. On the tablet, the blue perimeter circle around Mapo continues its slow pulse. He taps once, shrinking the map until it disappears, then powers the device down. The room feels exposed without the glow. Another vibration arrives, this time through the internal channel reserved for executive legal traffic. He answers on speaker without sitting. Chairman, the attorney says, voice tightened by urgency, we have prepared a preemptive statement. Paper slides against a microphone on the other end. He can hear the faint rasp of pages being aligned. It affirms that you have no undisclosed dependents. The attorney continues. It will be released to the exchange before market open if signed. This neutralizes any future claim. The word neutralizes is clinical, bloodless. Tae-ho looks at the envelope on his desk, the pediatric sketch still inside. And if it is not signed, he asks. A pause. Then the board will interpret that as material uncertainty, the attorney says. They will move to suspend your voting authority during the merger process. The cost lands immediately. Control of capital. Control of narrative. Control of the structure that has defined him. Send it, Tae-ho says. A document arrives seconds later, the digital signature field blank and waiting. He does not open it. Another call pushes through before the attorney disconnects. Minutes again. Boson background replaced by interior acoustics, with paneling, the faint clink of porcelain. They've drafted something for you, Minitsuk says. I know. Father wants it signed before you arrive in Hanamdong, Minitsuk continues. He doesn't want discussion. He wants confirmation. The word confirmation echoes the lab message, the two systems colliding, science and lineage both demanding acknowledgement. I'll review it there, Tae-ho replies. That will be interpreted as resistance, Minute-suk says. Tae-ho says nothing. You're forcing this into the council, Minute-suk adds. Once it's there, it doesn't stay private. The line goes quiet except for breathing on both ends. For a moment it sounds like they are children again, standing outside a closed door, waiting to be called in. Bring the registry, Minute-suk says finally. He wants records. The call ends. Tae-ho opens the document at last. The language is precise, engineered to erase possibility. Each sentence closes a door he has not yet chosen to open. I affirm. I declare. I deny. The cursor blinks at the signature line. He places his finger above the screen without touching it. The reflection of his hand overlays the text, the shadow of the cross-shaped mark faintly visible through the fabric when the light shifts. If he signs, the systems align. The merger proceeds. The council remains stable. The perimeter in Mapo becomes an unnecessary precaution. If he does not, the board will move. Voting rights suspended. Chairmanship contested. Assets frozen pending review. He lowers his hand. The intercom lights. His assistant's voice is softer than usual. The car for Hanamdong is ready. He glances at the countdown icon. Less than an hour. He closes the document without signing and transfers it to a secure drive, then prints a physical copy. The paper emerges from the machine warm, the ink still sharp. He folds it once, precisely, and places it inside the same envelope that holds the pediatric sketch. The two documents touch for the first time, denial and evidence separated only by a crease. He buttons his jacket, smoothing the lapels with practice motions that restore the appearance of control. In the hallway outside, staff members step back as he passes, eyes lowered, sensing a shift they cannot name. The elevator descends in silence. The mirrored walls show his reflection from multiple angles, each identical, each color perfectly closed. In the underground garage, the engine of the sedan is already running. The driver opens the door without meeting his eyes. As the car pulls onto the expressway toward Hanamdong, the city lights blur into continuous lines. The envelope rests on his lap, heavier than paper should be. His phone vibrates once more. Legal status, pending signature. He does not respond. The gates of the estate open ahead, the traditional roofline silhouetted against the night. Inside waits the council, the registry, and a document that can erase a life with one stroke of ink. He steps out of the car carrying the unsigned denial. The doors of the Hanamdong estate close behind Jang Tae-ho with a muted thud that carries through the corridor like a seal. The envelope is still in his hand. Inside the dining hall the air is cooler than outside, conditioned to preserve the antiques that line the walls. The long table is already set. His father sits at the head beneath the ancestral portrait, hands folded, eyes steady. Jang Minute-suk stands to the right, jacket buttoned, gaze lowered. No one else speaks. The empty chair halfway down the table is waiting for Tae-ho. He takes it. The envelope rests on the polished wood between the chopsticks and the untouched glass of water. The reflection of the ceiling lights runs along its edge like a blade. His father nods once toward it. You received the statement. Yes. And you will sign it. Not a question. Tae-ho slides the envelope open and removes the printed page. The denial text faces upward. Beneath it, still hidden by the fold, the pediatric sketch presses faintly against the paper. The room is silent except for the faint tick of a clock on the far wall, counting down something none of them have named. Before we proceed, his father says, the registry. Minute-suk places a leather-bound volume on the table. Generations documented in ink and seal. Births, marriages, deaths arranged in precise lines. Continuity rendered as fact. Your duty, his father continues, is to maintain stability. The word stability echoes the attorney's earlier language, the board's concerns, the merger's projections. Systems aligning against a single deviation. Tae-ho's thumb rests on the edge of the denial document. The paper is warm from his body heat. Sign, his father says. He lifts the page. For a moment it appears he will comply. The pen is already on the table beside his glass. He turns the page instead. The pediatric sketch slides free and lands in the center of the table, its hand-drawn cross exposed under the chandelier light. Minute-suk inhales sharply. His father does not move. "My daughter," Tae-ho says. The words are quiet, almost conversational, but they fracture the room more completely than any raised voice. His father's gaze drops to the sketch, then rises again. "You have no daughter." "I do." The clock continues its steady ticking. "You have been misled," his father says. "Correct the error." Tae-ho's hand moves to his collar. He unbuttons it deliberately, the fabric parting just enough to reveal the mark at his throat. The same shape. The same position. Minute-suk's chair scrapes the floor. No one speaks. "This is not an error," Tae-ho says. The air thickens. "You will not introduce an unverified claim into this family," his father replies. "The board will interpret it as instability. Investors will withdraw. Competitors will move." "She exists," Tae-ho says. "Her name is Noir Park." The name lands in the room, foreign and unrecorded. "You will sign the statement," his father says again, voice lower now, the first hint of strain. Tae-ho folds the denial document once, then again, and places it back inside the envelope with the sketch. He does not pick up the pen. No. The word is small, final. For a moment nothing moves. The clock ticks. The air conditioner hums. Then his father reaches for the water glass and sets it down harder than necessary. "If you proceed," he says, "you forfeit your position as chairman. Your voting shares will be placed under temporary stewardship. All discretionary accounts frozen pending review." Each clause removes a layer of protection. Tae-ho feels the loss register not as shock but as subtraction, resources, authority, the ability to shield. He nods once. Understood. Minute-suk looks between them, calculating outcomes that no longer matter. "You would dismantle the structure for an unproven liability," his father says. Tae-ho's hand returns to the envelope, pressing the papers flat. "I would acknowledge my daughter." The chandelier light reflects in his father's eyes, making them appear colder. "Then you are no longer chairman," the old man says. The words settle into the wood of the table like a seal. Tae-ho rises. The chair legs whisper against the floor. No one stops him. He walks the length of the hall past the portraits, past the registry that no longer contains him, and out into the night air of Hanam-dong where the city lights bane indifferent. His phone vibrates before he reaches the car. Legal status, voting authority suspended. Another message stacks beneath it. Board emergency session scheduled. He opens a different application, one buried beneath layers of corporate software. A private foundation interface, dormant for years except for routine charitable disbursements. He inputs a series of commands with practiced precision: asset reallocation, irrevocable trust creation, beneficiary designation. Noir Park. The cursor blinks once, then accepts. Funds transfer from accounts still under his personal control, moving into a structure the family cannot touch without exposing their own tax strategies and offshore instruments. Confirmation flashes. Trust activated. The protection is real. The retaliation will be immediate. A final message appears from an internal governance channel. Unauthorized asset movement detected. Audit initiated. He closes the phone and looks back at the estate gates, now shut behind him. For the first time since the lobby, his hands are shaking. The city stretches ahead, and somewhere across the river a young woman walks through Hongdae unaware that her name has just triggered a war inside a system built to erase her. The phone is still warm in Tae-ho's hand when the cafe door in Hongdae swings closed behind him, the bell above it ringing once and then settling into the low hum of conversation and espresso steam. Noir Park is already seated near the window, a paper cup untouched in front of her. Daylight flattens the room, stripping away the shadows that protected him in Hanam-dong. Students crowd the long tables, laptops open, voices overlapping. No one looks at them twice. He stops a few steps away, waiting. She does not stand. You're late, she says. I came from Hanam-dong, he replies. The name lands between them like a confession. She studies his face, searching for something she cannot name. You look different, she says. He does not answer. He sits. The collar is closed again. The mark hidden. The absence feels heavier now that she knows it exists. I saw the news alerts, Nia says, voice low but steady. Board emergency session. Voting authority suspended. The words are clinical, copied from a screen. You did something, she adds. He watches the condensation slide down her cup. Yes. For me. He nods once. She exhales through her nose, a sound that carries disbelief more than relief. I didn't ask you to. I know. Silence settles. Around them, a group of students laughs at something on a phone. A chair scrapes. Milk steams. What did it cost? She asks. He looks at her then. Directly. Everything that had my name on it. Her fingers tighten around the cup without lifting it. So now people know. They know something changed, he says. That's wise, she replies. Unclear things get investigated. He does not deny it. She glances toward the window. Across the street, a black sedan idles in a loading zone, engine running. Another vehicle slows at the corner, then continues. You said it was protection, she says quietly. It is. Protection I didn't choose, she answers. The sentence lands harder than accusation. He folds his hands on the table, keeping them still. You can tell me to stop. Can I? She asks. He does not answer. A barista calls an order number. The sound echoes in the brief silence that follows. I grew up without a name for you, Nia says. Now I have one, and it comes with surveillance and news alerts and people watching my building. He nods once. Yes. She studies him again, this time not as a stranger but as a problem she cannot step away from. My grandmother told me you declared it, she says. In front of them. I did. Why? The question is simple. The answer is not. Because you exist, he says. Her expression shifts, not to acceptance but to something softer, conflicted. That doesn't fix anything. No. Another silence, longer. The cafe noise swells and recedes around them like water. I don't want your money, she says. Or your name. I know. I want to decide what this is, she continues. Slowly. On my terms. He nods again. Yes. The word feels different this time, less like surrender and more like agreement. She finally lifts the cup and takes a small sip, though the coffee has gone cold. If we meet again, she says, it stays public. No cars. No people following me. He hesitates. The perimeter in Mapo. The trust activation. The audit notice. I will try, he says. Trying isn't control, she replies. I know. She sets the cup down. Outside, the black sedan's driver shifts, adjusting the mirror. A second vehicle parks 2 spaces behind it, occupants unseen. Nia notices. Her gaze lingers on the reflection in the window, not turning her head. You said you'd protect me, she says softly. From who? He does not answer. The question remains between them as the cafe door opens again and a rush of cold air moves through the room, carrying with it the faint scent of exhaust. Nia stands. One meeting, she says. That's all for now. He rises as well. They do not shake hands. She walks toward the door without looking back, her reflection passing over the glass where the idling cars wait. Tae-ho remains by the table, watching the vehicles through the window, unable to tell which ones are his and which ones are not. Tae-ho remains by the table after Nia Park leaves, the chair across from him still angled toward the window, the untouched cup cooling between them. Outside, the black sedan does not move. He waits until the door chime settles and the noise of the cafe swallows her footsteps. Only then does he sit again, hands resting flat on the wood as if the surface might steady something inside him. His phone vibrates once. Foundation transpo complete. Trust registration acknowledged. No celebration in the language. Only completion. A second message stacks beneath it. Board notice. Provisional removal from chairmanship ratified. He locks the screen and slides the phone into his pocket without reading further. The students around him return to their conversations. A laptop fan spins up. Someone argues about a deadline. The ordinary rhythm of Hongdae resumes as if nothing has shifted. Across the glass, the sedan's engine finally cuts. The driver steps out, stretches, and walks toward a vending machine. Another vehicle rolls past slowly, pauses at the corner, then disappears into traffic. He cannot tell which movement belongs to him. Nia's chair remains empty. He reaches for the paper cup she left behind, then stops before touching it. The faint ring of condensation has marked the table, a pale circle that will dry and vanish. In his pocket, the phone vibrates again, an internal governance channel, muted but persistent. He does not look. Instead he stands and walks to the window, positioning himself where she had been sitting. From here the street angles differently. The reflection overlays pedestrians with passing cars, faces crossing headlights in brief, fragmented flashes. A text arrives from an unknown number. I'll message when I'm ready. No name attached. No punctuation. He types nothing in response. Outside, a delivery truck blocks the view for a moment, then moves on, leaving the sidewalk exposed again. The space she occupied is already filled by strangers. The trust exists now, a structure he cannot undo. It shields her name in documents that will never reach the registry in Hanamdong. It also leaves a trail of displaced capital, numbers that auditors will follow back to him. He imagines the leather-bound volume on the council table, the blank space where his line once continued. Another vibration. He finally glances at the screen. Internal investigation initiated, an authorized philanthropic reallocation. The wording is careful, procedural, but it carries the weight of the family's response. He powers the phone off. The cafe smells faintly of burnt espresso and cleaning solution. A barista wipes down the counter, the cloth moving in slow, repetitive arcs. He adjusts his collar, a reflex more than a necessity. The fabric sits smooth against his throat, concealing the mark as it always has. In the window's reflection, the line of the collar is perfect. For a moment the glass catches the angle of light from outside, and the faint outline beneath the fabric becomes visible again. Not to anyone else, only to him. He does not look away. The chair across from him remains empty. The circle of condensation fades, leaving no trace on the wood. Outside, traffic continues through Hongdae, headlights sliding past the cafe window in an unbroken stream, none of them stopping.